lying on the soft grass of a park, under an open sky with the fresh scent of wild mint growing low to the ground, I closed my eyes and let the music caress my ears. It's me here now, in this moment where everything stops. It's not a divine revelation, nor a dream. It's an idea, a spark that lights a connection in my mind. And that connection takes me to a film, 2001, A Space Odyssey. That film doesn't begin with an ordinary story. It begins with a symbol, a perfect alignment between the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun. An image that recalls ancient Egyptian papyri, where Ra's solar bark sails from the visible world into the underworld. There's no dialogue, only music, the absolute silence of space, and a black stone, the monolith, cold, smooth, impossible, an anomaly that doesn't belong to the world around it. The monolith appears and changes everything. An ape touches it and suddenly understands something. Violence, the bone as a weapon, the leap in evolution. Humanity is born not as a natural process, but as an external intervention. And from there, the game begins. From stone to satellite, from bone to spaceship, a sharp cut, brutal. And the message is clear. Someone, something, gave us the first push. Was it God? Was it extraterrestrials? Was it chance? Kubrick doesn't answer. He only suggests. He leaves clues. And then my mind starts weaving. If we weren't alone, who else and why? Let's look east, not to Egypt nor to Sumer. India. Perhaps there lies the true root of civilizations. In that land, ancient religions flourished, and texts like the Vedas and the Mahabharata were written, an epic that speaks of great wars, of flying chariots called vimanas, and weapons with the power of 1,000 suns. Some interpret these stories as metaphors for advanced technologies, similar to nuclear weapons. There, in that territory, humanity seems to hold every form: black, white, copper, yellow, all within a single continent. And from an evolutionary standpoint, it's more likely for someone from India to evolve into a European or African than the other way around. In fact, Europeans are called Indo-Europeans, a fusion pointing back to that place of origin. From India, a group breaks away. They head north, through Afghanistan. Crossing the Caucasus, they settle in Eastern Europe. And something happens to them. They change. They grow pale. Their hair turns light, their eyes as well. The cold doesn't bother them. They seek it. They settle where temperatures kill, and they thrive. We call them Aryans, and it's no coincidence that it sounds like Ares. The Greek god of war, Ares, Aryans, Mars, the red planet, desert, hostile, unsettling. Where does that affinity for cold, for war, for the northern lands come from? And why do so many ancient peoples place their origins among the stars? Blondes appear suddenly in history like a mutation far too fast. Before the Phoenicians, there are no clear records. Afterwards, they're everywhere. Accelerated evolution, genetic interference, stellar migration. The madness starts to sound like logic. And if we follow that thread, we arrive at a dark moment in history: Nazism, the obsessive search for racial origins, expeditions to Tibet, the Himalayas, the north of India, searching for lost origins, searching for Zarathustra, Zoroaster, the gods of fire and order. Friedrich Nietzsche writes, "Thus spoke Zarathustra," not as a novel, but as a manifesto. The Übermensch, the one who leaves God behind, the one who surpasses the ape, the next step, and the Nazis take it as prophecy. Richard Strauss turns it into music. And that music is what opens 2001: A Space Odyssey. Kubrick leaves nothing to chance. That orchestral crescendo is a signal. The monolith is not just science fiction, it's an allegory. It's Nietzsche, it's the intervention, it's the leap. At the end of the film, after the ship, after HAL 9000, after the psychedelic journey through hyperspace, what remains is the star child, the Übermensch, humanity transformed. What if the message was literal? What if Kubrick, with all his symbolism and precision, was weaving the real story behind the story? a modified humanity, an intervened race, a cycle that begins with a monolith and ends with a new being, an evolution not Darwinian, a Martian intervention. Because if there's one thing in common between Aryans, Aries, Mars, Zarathustra, the Nazis, Nietzsche, India, and the monoliths, it's that they all point to the same thing: a rupture in human history. A moment when someone tapped us on the shoulder and said, "Now you continue." And perhaps Kubrick knew it and didn't want to explain it. He just showed it. Because if you watch 2001 expecting answers, you get frustrated. But if you watch it like deciphering a hieroglyph, the connections appear. A Space Odyssey is a film about the past, about the present, about the future, but also about who we truly are, and even more, who we might have been if we hadn't been touched by that monolith. So it's not so far-fetched to say that maybe the monolith didn't come from outside, maybe it was always inside. Or worse, maybe we were the monolith for others. And so, like in a cosmic loop, the ape becomes a god. The god becomes a man, the man becomes a machine, and the machine falls silent. A silence full of answers.